Okay, live.
Yo, what up, Knicks Nation? What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? We are back with another game of the week preview. You already know what it is. Come on, everybody. We got the New York Knicks facing the Milwaukee Bucks. They're finishing the finale. Is it the finale? I think it is the finale of their road trip. Unless they're going to play out in Indiana. I'll check that in a second. But we're facing the Milwaukee Bucks tomorrow. So you know what we got to do. We got to bring on an astounding guest. All right? We got Rohan K of the Gyro Step podcast. That's right. I said Gyro. Okay. If you're Greeks, you'd understand. You say Gyro, not gyro, none of that nonsense. It's Gyro, the Gyro Step podcast. Because come on, they got a famous Greek over there in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Rohan, what's going on, my man? How you feeling today?
You know, I'm feeling good. The Bucks are playing the Jazz right now and they're up double digits. Life is great. Like the Bucks are winning a basketball game. This is awesome. I couldn't be more excited.
Wow.
I haven't seen a Bucks win in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Good Lord, man. So you were desperate for a win. You're looking for the Bucks to do some good stuff, you know. And look, watch it from afar. I'm like, this is kind of strange because they're usually, you know, hot out the gate. You know, this team's usually competing. But before I ask you questions about the team that you cover, I got to ask you questions about the team that I cover since you're in my house. So what do you think about the New York Knicks so far to start of the season?
I mean, I think just like the rest of the East in general, it's been a little underwhelming, right? I mean, the Bucks are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, like the end of the spectrum in terms of underwhelming. But if you think about the Knicks and all of the great additions that they've made this offseason and just the team building that they've had, just to start off, like, you know, 3-4, one game under 500, you're like, oh yeah, things aren't looking too good. And then it's like, oh yeah, the rest of the East is horrible. It's so early. There's so much room to recover. I've talked a lot about the Knicks when talking in the offseason on our podcast. In terms of like a team that's undergone a lot of change and use them as sort of a proxy for the Milwaukee Bucks. Because last season, the Bucks, as everyone knows, were not as good as anyone had hoped they would be. They got Damian Lillard, all this craziness, and then it was a little bit underwhelming. And I was talking a lot about the Knicks because it's difficult to really build a team so fast with so many changing parts. Reinventing your identity as a team is difficult. It takes time. And it was one thing in my season previews that I was like, gonna keep an eye on is the Knicks, because obviously they've made so many good moves. This is a team that is ready to take that next step in the Eastern Conference. And I just wanted to make sure people know that it takes time. None of these things are formed immediately. It takes time to form these bonds, especially when trades are made right before the season, like what happened with Karl Anthony Towns. It's a great addition. It's a worthwhile trade. It's a very good trade, but it takes some time to establish an identity. And I think that's a little bit of what we're seeing with the Knicks so far.
For sure, Ron. And look, you know, fans right now, including myself, like we were frustrated last night. You know, when you make this trade for Cat Bridges and you get all this hype about having one of the best starting fives in the NBA, you want to see the returns early, especially when you've seen other teams in the past have a hot start with all the talent. And I said this last night with the talent, I want to see them, you know, show that they have talent. I get that it takes time to gel, to find everybody on the court and stuff of that nature, to even work the two-man game between Cat and Brunson. But I still want to see, you know, something like transpire on the court, at least saying, all right, this is a good base and we can really build off of this moving forward. And there have been some glimpses so far, but to your point, it is a brand new team. This trade was done right before training camp. There's still a lot of moving pieces to get everyone on the same page. And I agree with you that it's going to take time for this team to really gel and hit their stride. But like I said, though, I just need this team to like show like it, because you're in the same position right now, right? You're in the same position when you're looking at the Bucks, who made a massive trade last year. And look, that team through 10 games started 6-4, but it was a wonky 6-4. It was like, all right, there's some highs and some lows. It's like, all right, the offense is looking fine, but is there any defense? Where's the defense going to show through? Considering that was a team that, you know, established itself as a defense. And that's kind of the same feeling we're going through as Knicks fans right now, is that this team last year was a gritty team. This is the team that would show up to any game, any fight with metal bats and knock you out. All right. To the end. And they're going to do so playing defense, slowing the clock, and really working every single second of the shot clock just to make sure that they get their bucket. It's changed now. Now you have a little bit more of an efficient offense. We're seeing that. Absolutely. But the defense is the concern. And I think from fans who follow this team, it's just we need to see things start to catch up And that obviously that's going to change when you get Mitchell Robinson, Precious Achiuwa back. Those guys, when they return, this team should look a lot different. But before we move on, so you like the Cat trade. What did you think about the Bridges trade when you saw that too?
The Bridges trade, it was really exciting because I thought it's just the wing position is such a position of need throughout the entire NBA. It's a coveted position to be able to find someone who can score, defend at a high level, like Mikal Bridges can, as shown. And one thing that I really like in terms of players on a team that's ready to be a contender and are contenders is people are overqualified for their role. Mikal Bridges is overqualified to be like a third option on a team, right? He is, at least at the point of the trade when it's like we're still establishing the hierarchy, but like you want guys who are overqualified at that position. He was the number one option on the team. He could easily go to a team and be the not clear second option on the team. It's not that clear in New York. Like he's not going to be the top guy for sure. Like he's overqualified to be in that position, but that's what you need. You need guys who are capable of stepping into a position when things are difficult, when like the end of a shot clock, and you need some guy to be able to take over. Yeah, Mikal Bridges can do that. You want as many players on the court who can do that as possible. So I thought it was a really, really good trade for the Knicks, considering like, there's all this discourse like, oh, they cashed in their chips and all that. And we'll talk about some trade stuff later. But it's it's a good trade. Like it's a very good player on a very good team who's going to fit right in. Like I know it was off to a little bit of a rough start with like the jump shot and everything, but that seems to not like really be that much of an issue anymore. So I was a little worried. I was a little worried, but things are seeming to figure themselves out. And obviously, like I was saying, it takes time. So, but I think overall, like the Bridges trade and the Cat trade, two really, really good and smart trades for a team that's just continued to build in a really smart way.
Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning in for another game of the week preview. With me on the other side is my guy, Rohan K. You can catch him over at the Euro Step podcast covering the Milwaukee Bucks. Make sure that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Also, make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash when you sign up for the first time using that promo code KFTV, and you get a free pick. All right. So, Rohan, your Bucks, what's going on, man? Yeah, you're happy that they're finally winning a game. You said you haven't seen this team win in 2 weeks. What's going on here, man? Like, you got Dame, you got Giannis. I'm expecting a little bit more out of this team. What has been? Is this a Doc Rivers thing? You tell me right now. What's happening?
I honestly, as much as funny as it is to think it's a Doc Rivers thing, and trust me, like there's definitely some part of that. I don't necessarily think this is a Doc Rivers thing. I think it's more of an issue about this team that's carrying over from last year. And again, they still need to figure out who they are. We're talking about the Knicks figuring out an identity. The Bucks are still trying to figure out how to do that. They still need to be able to find ways to have Giannis and Dame be both successful on the court at the same time. And that's the thing. It's not really been them. Like Dame has been outstanding to start the season. Giannis has been outstanding to start the season. I think Dame only had one stinker. Otherwise, he's averaging over 30 a game. It's it's been just the ancillary pieces around them just not being able to step up. And we're seeing that in this game today, where Gary Trent Jr., who was a prized free agent acquisition for the Bucks, has been struggling and subsequently got benched. He got benched for a second year, second round pick, who for the only reason he got benched for Andre Jackson Jr. is because Andre Jackson Jr. plays with energy. He plays frenetically. He plays with movement. This is a team that has just looked very slow. It is a team that has lacked burst in a league that has just started to thrive on athleticism. They were getting left behind. You can't have Bobby Portis not be the least athletic guy on the court at all times. Like he needs to always be the least athletic guy on the court. You can't have Pat Connaughton being that guy in that situation either. Pat Connaughton does not look like an NBA player. It's horrible. Uh,
Oof.
we have a Bucks stock market where we kind of like keep track of players' valuations. Pat Connaughton is at the level of the two-way players right now. Uh, so that's
Wow.
how,
This is a
yeah.
guy that was impactful, knocking down threes and cutting too. What happened, man? Is this just
It's a
injuries
good
over time?
question. Listen, uh he's really involved in the Milwaukee real estate game, and I think that's really taken away
Mm.
from his basketball prowess. He's just being a landlord. That's not a joke. He actually is. Uh,
Wow. So we're finding out more about Pat Connaughton than I expect in today's show. Look at that.
But overall, this team, it's been struggling in terms of finding its rhythm, finding itself. And I think a lot of that begins with defense.
Mm.
Because this is a team, like you mentioned in the past, has just been a defensive juggernaut. They've tried. And like, here's the thing, Brook Lopez is still a massive deterrent in the paint. I think he's around fourth or sixth in most contested shots at the rim this season,
Mm.
and one of the two in percentages allowed at the rim this season. Again, it's a young season, small sample size, whatever, but he's still got it. It's 36 years old. I don't think he's necessarily the issue there. It's just been trying to find the guys around him, and a lot of it is screen navigation. Not to harp on Gary Trent Jr., his screen navigation has been horrible. The guard defense, it's not even a Dame problem. It's more of the pieces around him that have really been letting him down defensively. And it kind of goes through the entire team. Just a lot of lazy closeouts, guys getting lost on defense. It seems like a team that's just kind of lazily walking through every single game, and they're losing them because of that. Teams are they're coming out. This team, like the NBA at large, just has so much talent that you can't do that on a night-to-night basis. You really can't.
Absolutely.
There's a reason that the league is looking at expansion on the horizon because there's so much talent. Like I was tweeting the other day, like if the Bucks open up a roster spot, a guy sitting right there, like Markelle Fultz, who is an player for a team, is just sitting there. You can't take the every single night. You have to play seriously. You have to play to win. And that involves playing a lot of younger guys. And I think that's one thing that this team really hasn't adjusted to yet, Doc Rivers in particular, but they're
Mm.
starting to. Like with the start today of Andre Jackson Jr., you could have started an undrafted third-year guy in AJ Green in that role, just an absolute shooter. There's a lot of internal sort of being used to the core that they have of like Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton. They're not really the answer anymore. You have to
Mm.
move on at some point, and I think they're starting to figure that out.
So this isn't a Doc is on the hot seat type of issue, is what you're telling me.
I don't think so. I don't think Doc is on the hot seat because you can't really do that all over again. The reason that the Bucks have Doc Rivers in the first place is because they messed up their coaching search before that. Adrian Griffin was not the answer. I don't know if Doc Rivers is the answer, but if it's not Doc Rivers, who's it gonna be? That was one of my primary like hesitations in
Harry
firing Adrian
Stotts.
Griffin. Terry, who knows? It might be like at this point, Terry Stotts, like Adrian Griffin, like whatever happened there. But like, who comes after Doc Rivers? Who's walking through that door? That was my issue. Like, you can't do like a full coaching search anymore. And what is that? 4 coaches in 3 years? That's
Mm.
untenable. If that's anything that's going to like sort of disrupt the balance of this team that can't has struggled to find a balance, firing a coach, starting that process all over again, having to relearn everything, you're never going to find a balance that way.
So let me ask you this then. So Doc is going to stay because, as you point out, it'd be four coaches within 4 years, and that if that doesn't scream dysfunction, I don't know what does. So with all this trade rumor around Giannis right now, how much should outsiders be taking that for its weight, right? Is this just like noise? Is this just pressure on the front office, the Bucks front office, that is, to make them do something to like add, as you're saying, youth to this roster, more athleticism? What is this noise that we're having about Giannis at this juncture?
Listen, this is I've walked this road so many times. You podcast about a small market basketball team long enough, you hear it every single time. This is my seventh season doing a pod in the Bucks, and I've never been able to let this go. By the way, the team won a title in those 7 years. Like that happened. They've made Eastern Conference Finals. They've made good playoff runs. Like why are we doing this? It's so funny when national networks they got caught gaslighting themselves. I think you not to put any stock into Kendrick Perkins, right? This is not me endorsing that whatsoever as an actual source. I think he said Giannis laid this bet. Like he made his bed, he has to lay in it. He can't request a trade. He didn't request a trade. Like that didn't happen. He gaslit himself into thinking that Giannis is asked out of Milwaukee. Like that never happened. And now he's saying, you can't ask out. Like you made your bed, you gotta lay in it. Like that didn't happen. You're making up scenarios in your head. This is not something that I would put too much stock in. Giannis just announced like a few weeks ago his new foundation in Milwaukee. He, this is a guy who's Milwaukee through and through. If he hasn't left already, I don't think he's going to leave because they've been through some hard times in his tenure as a Milwaukee Buck. Like, given this is bad, but also this is the most talented team that he's had. Like it just
Mm,
is. They've are in such a good position to succeed. Like you have another top 75 player on this roster. Like Damian Lillard is the best teammate Giannis will probably ever have.
mm.
Ever. Like that's it's real. It's hard to top that. So where is the grass greener? That's my thing. Because this is a team that is theoretically set up to succeed. And why would you I don't know. I wouldn't put too much stock into it.
So let me ask you this, since you brought up Dame, because it seems like Dame has been struggling a little bit moving forward, like not moving forward, but on the season. You know what I mean? And when I watch him play, and considering he's also my fantasy basketball team, so I am very heavily invested in how Damian Lillard plays. There's some nights where I'm like, wait a minute, single digit scoring. What's happening over here? He should at least be getting double digits. So what's going on with Dame? I mean, especially if you listen to Bill Simmons, he's like, this is a guy who will give you like some good scoring like almost every other night and not as consistently as he once once did out in Portland. So what's the 401 on Dame?
I would actually I think Dame has been a bright spot on this season.
Hmm.
The Memphis game where he scored 4 points and the team lost by like 30. Yeah, that was bad. It was really bad. But outside of that, I think he's been like a solid player. I think he's actually been able to establish more of like a basketball on-court relationship with a lot of players. He's seeming to pass more. He's seeming to find Giannis in more cutting lanes and seeing all of these players. Like he's seeing the floor better, playing better with Giannis. I don't necessarily know if Damian Lillard has like sort of lost a step. I would actually argue that he's gained a step this season. He's showing a lot more patience
Hmm.
with this team. He doesn't seem like last season he seemed like he was trying to force himself, not
Mm-hmm.
in like a bad way, but it's like oh, I'm Damian Lillard. I have to make sure my presence is known. I have to live up to the he's talked about this. He felt like he has to live up to the expectations of him being traded, right? It's like, oh man, Damian Lillard, he's been staying with Portland so long, so long. It's like when he finally gets traded, he's got all this stuff has to happen. He's got to have a parade year one. And he kind of got caught up in those expectations. But now that he's had a year in Milwaukee, just being able to be with this team, have an actual off season where he can train and not worry about like, oh, I can't get injured before I get traded. Uh, so he can actually go and be like better shape. Doc Rivers, man, the one thing about Doc Rivers, he'll say whatever he wants. Uh the he will say, yeah, Dame showed up to camp out of shape. He's like, yeah, the last year. He was like, yeah, Dame was out of shape last year. Like all these guys, like I didn't expect Dame to do, and it's like, chill, Doc. You don't need to say all this stuff out loud. Fun story. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. The only reason that it got out that Chris Middleton had two ankle surgeries this offseason was because Doc Rivers was on a summer league broadcast and he was like, yeah, Chris, he's recovering from two ankle surgeries. And everyone's like, wait, what? What? Chris did
Doc,
what?
Doc Big Mouth Rivers. Look at that going on. Holy cow. Yeah, I mean,
he
that's another thing going on with this team too, where it's like Chris Middleton, who's been like he's been a key piece, man, especially when they won the chip. I mean, this is, the guy who helped spaces the floor for Giannis, and he's now out and he's just been injury ridden for so many years now at this point. It's what's happening with him, because at some point you talk about moving in this direction where you have youth, athleticism. Well, Chris Middleton is on that fence where do you keep him? Like, I get the whole nostalgic aspect of like what he brought you, but the best ability is availability at this point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's been so unfortunate to see Chris just be hampered with injury year after year after year, and he never seems to be able to finish the job. Last season, we were waiting for him to come back. He misses a good portion of the season early in spring, and then he comes back. He's injured with both ankles. He still drops 40 in the playoffs on zero ankles. And it's like he's no matter what, he's always going to deliver, but it's a matter of availability, like you mentioned. There were, and again, Doc was saying, yeah, if it was a playoff game, he would start game one. Would he? Like this is game what not 8 now for the Bucks, and there's still no timetable. He's still out indefinitely. It's really concerning considering that leading up to the season, even after it was known that he had ankle surgery, it was assumed that he would be ready to go fairly early on in the season.
Hmm.
The Bucks broadcast, local broadcasters were talking like, yeah, this is a good opportunity for him to practice. They have an off day here. Maybe this is when Chris comes back. Mike Breen, of all people, was like reporting during the the opening night game against the Sixers. Like, yeah, I'm hearing that Chris is he's ready to go, and the legend that he is, Mike Breen, but he's not. Like all that we hear is like, yeah, Chris is ready, Chris is ready. He's not. What we're seeing is him not playing. But here's the thing about do you keep him or not? What's the value for an aging guy who still can play really, really well on a big contract for the Bucks? Like he is their third best player. And one of the reasons I got really excited about the Damian Lillard trade, among the obvious reasons, is that point I was talking earlier about Mikal Bridges, where it's like you want guys who are overqualified in their role. Chris Middleton is overqualified to be the third best player on a team. He could earlier on in his career, he could have gone to like what's a bad team, the 2017 Orlando Magic, I don't know, and just been their best player. He could have, but now he won the title as their second best player, and now as a third best player, as he is sort of aging, I thought it was a really good role for him to sort of age gracefully, and I still think that's the case, but he just has to play. I wish I knew when he was coming back so we could actually like rationalize that in terms of like the team and the context of this team and this record. But we don't. We just don't. And that's the unfortunate reality with Chris Middleton nowadays. But I think the Bucks in that situation are kind of stuck. They can't
Mm.
trade him. I mean, if they do, they're getting pennies on the dollar. Uh, and then keeping him, you don't really know when he's going to play. But this team absolutely does need Chris Middleton to be able to be a contender.
So you need Chris Middleton to be a contender. And look, I understand like this looming injury cloud over your team just because it's the same thing with Mitchell Robinson, man. As I was talking about earlier in the show, we need this defense to improve. And when I watch the Knicks, it's like Cat has been awesome to start the season, right? He's doing what he needs to do, right? He's now found a groove where when he's getting the ball, he is putting the ball in the hoop, which is what he does at a high level. The thing is whether or not Jalen finds him, in the fourth after he's having a hot game. It's like it's a little stuff like that that needs to be ironed out. But defensively, when you watch this team, as I mentioned earlier, that's where it's shaky. And the looming injury question is Mitchell Robinson, just because what he offers defensively for this team. And look, we have people saying you got to trade Mitch, you got to go figure out what it.
Hey,
The
we'll take
guy,
him.
yeah, I know, sure. Anybody would take Mitchell Robinson, even with his injury history. I get it, but the way that he can guard the rim, the way that he can guard the pick and roll, his recovery speed, his athleticism. You talk about being in a league that you need athleticism. He has like top end athleticism, and even being a lob threat, right? Even with the limited offense, he could be a legit lob threat. And I can't even wait to see what he looks like with this spaced out offense, right? You put Bridges, OG, Cat out there with Brunson, he has an easy lane every single night just to catch lobs. And so I can't wait for him to return. But it's like as of right now, it's first start off is December, now maybe January, and we know that he's progressing when we get the tidbits here and there. But it's still a question of when will he return, because he will completely change the outlook of this team and what they're capable of doing on the court. So just like Chris Middleton, man, the Knicks are in that same space, and it just goes back to like where are all these teams early in the season? Like, do you hit the panic button? I'm not hitting the panic button for the Knicks, but are you hitting the panic button for the Bucks, or are you saying, you know what, we still need more time?
Here's the thing. I said this on our most recent podcast and said my co-host Ty Windish. Uh, I am more confident in the 1-6 Bucks than I was in the 1-4 Bucks, which is weird to say. It's weird to say.
Interesting.
So the last two games that they had played prior to tonight were both against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, by the way, speaking of teams that are looking good and have cohesion and have a built-in identity in how they can hit the floor running, the Celtics, the Cavaliers, it's not an accident. Uh, but the two games against the Cleveland Cavaliers, one with Giannis, one without Giannis, both very, very close games. And the reason that, especially the second game where Giannis didn't play, where I started to build some confidence is that everyone was moving on a dime. Everyone was going out there, it was being active, it was frenetic pace, it was great energy. There was so much ball movement. We've been seeing the Bucks year in, year out just be slow plodding on offense. And that's where I was talking earlier about having to inject some of the youth, some of the athleticism. Well, they did in that game, and it worked wonders. They lost the game, like they couldn't just keep up. It was a one score game. It was a really close game. And you can do that against the Cavs without Giannis because your team is operating at such a high level together. It's really, really good to see and made me more confident in the Bucks because I saw all of their pieces operating together as a unit, not necessarily as an individual. Like, I mean, AJ Green went off, good old we call him Baby Bird because he just looks like a young Larry Bird. And some people call him Dairy Bird because he's a Midwest guy too. But he went off, he had a career high, and it was like sure, that was a great individual performance, but as a team, everyone seemed to be clicking together. There was a wild lineup that played most of the fourth quarter. It was Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, AJ Green, Andre Jackson Jr., and Ryan Rollins. There are exactly two players, one player in that lineup that most people have heard about. And the reason is because he punched his teammate. That's the only that's just Bobby. No one else in that lineup is like who you would think is like, oh, this is a team that's going to succeed. This is a lineup that's going to succeed. But they were playing with good team principles that should echo to the rest of the team and made me confident in this team's ability to operate as a unit, not just at an individual level, because they have the individuals, Giannis, Dame, Chris, but you need to be able to operate as a unit, as a team. And that's what I saw.
Salute to Knicks
So
Nation.
short answer, not hitting the panic button.
All good, all good. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning in front of the Game of the Week preview. With me on the other side is my guy Rohan K. You can catch him over at the Yito Step podcast covering the Milwaukee Bucks. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash when you sign up and get a free pick. Look, guys, I love playing Underdog Fantasy. It's a lot of fun, especially when during this time of the year. You got all the sports going on. You got basketball. You got football. You got hockey. There's so much stuff going on. And the cool thing is that you can choose any sports. You can mix and match when you make your ticket. And all you got to do is choose higher or lower. You can choose at least 2 players from any sports across the board up to 8. So what I like to do is I like to mix and match some of the players, but I typically stick NBA. I just go down the slate, see who's playing tonight, and just decide, hey, who's going to score more points? Who's going to, who's going to get more boards, man? Like tomorrow, I'm going to be choosing Jalen Brunson to go probably higher. All right, because he's been scoring very well, even though he's making some questionable decisions in the fourth quarter. He's still been scoring the ball very well, still been knocking down threes, and he's going against Damian Lillard. So between those two matchups, between that matchup, I should say, it should be a nice barn burner. So make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and get a free pick. All right. And just some correction, because earlier in the show, I was wondering because look, the Knicks have been on a road trip, man. They're actually going to be home for this Bucks game. They're going to be playing at Madison Square Garden, but then go on the road again for a short road trip for the Pacers and then Sixers, and then they'll be back home again. So just got to correct it, let the fans know what's going on here. All right. So they'll be at Madison Square Garden tomorrow. You can catch the game at 7:30. All right, Rohan. Let's get into this game now. Let's get into the matchup. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of what we're here for. So, these two teams, different points. They're fighting the tide. But this is a game where both teams are looking to get some wins and to get back on track. All right. So, what do you think about this right now? Like, because I'm looking at some of these team statistics, and right now, I think the biggest thing is going to come down to second chance opportunities. All right. Just because the Knicks, even though we're not the same as we were last year, the team is still ranked 13th so far, getting second chance points. But the Milwaukee Bucks are, top 10 when it comes to limiting teams for second chance opportunities. I feel like this is going to be a spot where rubber meets the road. What do you think of that?
I think that's a great call out because the Bucks, it's sort of ebbed and flowed this so far this season in terms of limiting offensive rebounds. There have been games where they've just been atrocious at it, where you're just seeing like small guys sneak in, guys aren't boxing out, Giannis isn't boxing out. You're like, what's going on here? Why is this And then there's games where they're just locked in, just weaponizing their size, as we like to say. Where you'd have the two big guys up front with Giannis and Brook just gobbling up rebounds. But I don't know. It's going to be a little bit tough. And here's the reason I think so is because of Karl Anthony Towns.
Mm.
And the reason I think it's going to be tough, especially for the Bucks, to limit the Knicks getting second chance opportunities, is because Cat, his presence, his gravity, is going to have to draw out Brook Lopez. And that's one thing the Bucks have not really wanted to do thus far this season is have guys out of the paint. They always want Brook in the paint, no matter what. They want Giannis sort of on help side. That's their bread and butter. That's what they've loved to do for the last 6 years now, 7 years, however long these guys have been on the court together. They don't like to do that. There's only a few guys in the league who can actually deter that. One of them is Karl Anthony Towns. I'd say another is like Porzingis. Really unfortunate that these are guys in the Eastern Conference. It's actually the worst, actually. But it presents a struggle for the Bucks in terms of trying to limit like a strength of the opposition versus sticking to their own ideals. And that's something they've sort of grappled with over the years. Even last year under Adrian Griffin, you saw Brook Lopez spaced out even against like non-shooting bigs, and you're like, what is going on here? It just didn't look right. And it didn't feel right. None of the rest of the team couldn't calibrate themselves. And that's one thing I'm afraid is going to happen. And without Brook Lopez protecting that paint, and being able to be in position to like box guys out so the team can rebound, it's going to be prime opportunities for guys on the Knicks to just swoop in because they're big, they're strong. These are big wings on the New York Knicks. These are physical guys who are going to be able to bump and claw their way to the ball and fight their way to the ball. And I think the Bucks are just going to be overmatched in that department.
Yeah, I'm looking at this matchup as, this is something where I think the Knicks should really take advantage of, especially with Cat. You talk about being able to draw Brook Lopez out of the paint. This is the whole point of why they made that move is that they wanted to be a little bit more of a modern offense. And with Cat, who can knock down threes as a high clip, he's certainly going to do that. And then when you have somebody like Josh Hart, who is just, you know, I don't even know what to call him, man, because what, a piranha? Like the man's like hopping out of the water, essentially just trying to grab rebounds left and right. And if he's on his game, he can do just that. So look, and I'd also say that with second chance opportunities and the way Cat can score on the post and what he's showing at this point, and just even being able to like pump fake and drive because he likes to shoot threes, he likes to work the post, and he likes to drive. Not really anything in between that. Those are like his three main things that he loves to do. So if you're going to get second chance opportunities, and to me that means dominating the middle of the court, I think this is a prime time for Karl Anthony Towns to really take advantage in this matchup. Granted, I know you got Giannis Antetokounmpo on the other side. He's very athletic, and there's probably going to be a point. Now, what would there be? There probably will be a point where Giannis is going to guard him, and Brook will be off the court. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that shakes out in this matchup. Now, this one's a wild card, actually. I am very curious to see how this plays out because you talk about being slow and unathletic. Well, we're not hyper athletic for the New York Knicks. And when we think of a pace, I'm thinking about fast break points. And if you look at the statistics so far early in the season, number 26 when it comes to fast break points is the New York Knicks. Number 27, the Milwaukee Bucks. So this is going to be a toss up for me to wonder, are we going to see easy scoring tomorrow? Because Josh Hart could easily be that guy that get out in transition. We know he could be that guy to look for guys like Bridges if he's just flying down the court, whether you want to say he's releasing, cherry picking, anything of that nature, he can do that. I'm wondering, will that who's going to take that advantage? Because I feel like when you start to open up that part of the game and get easy points, then it starts to lean a little bit in your favor just because once you outrun these guys, once you get them tired, then you can go back to the half court and start, making your presence known.
Yeah, it's the thing about fast break points is that you need to have a defensive stop to be able to get there. And that's one thing that the Bucks have really not been able to do, which is why, they're ranked so low in that department. But I do think it could be a factor. We could see some easy scoring in that regard. Uh, Especially because, like you pointed out, there's just so many guys on both teams who are able to take it and push the pace so fast, especially with Andre Jackson Jr. in the starting lineup for the Bucks now. We'll see how that goes. It worked today. We'll see if it carries over tomorrow. But there's just so many guys. Dame can run fast. Obviously, Giannis is a one-man wrecking crew, but you just have so many good, strong, athletic guys on the Knicks where you can't really pinpoint one guy to take in transition if you're on a transition defense. So it's going to be an interesting sort of back and forth. Hey, are there going to be stops? Are there going to be a lot of fast break opportunities? However, if there are, is either team going to be able to limit it? Because each team's got some weapons. It's a real what is it? Movable force meets a weak object sort of situation with like two teams struggling on defense.
For sure, for sure. And then, the last thing I'm going to point out is the turnovers. Knicks are historically a good team under Tom Thibodeau when it comes to protecting the rock. And right now, even with all their mishaps through the first couple of games, they're fifth in the league when it comes to protecting the ball. Bucks are 13th. And when I look at scoring off of turnovers, Knicks are right up there, man. They're fifth when it comes to doing so. This is for me where I see the Knicks going to take advantage of the Bucks. And, when you have some young players out there, they're a little careless, a little bit too aggressive, reckless when it comes to, working sets or even just trying to push the pace. I'm looking for the Knicks to actually capitalize on this. This is a strong suit for the Knicks, so I'm looking for them to do that. Is there something that you expect in this matchup where, it would be in favor of the Bucks and a weakness for the Knicks?
Well, I mean, I would say the opposite for the turnover battle. I think the Knicks are going to easily take that and eat it up because the Bucks are going to throw away the ball so carelessly, and the Knicks are going to eat it up. It's gonna be tough for a Bucks fan. But if you're looking for one matchup that could benefit the Bucks, it's always going to be the the most obvious one, and it's who's guarding Giannis
Mm.
uh in that regard. Because it's like a lot of times last season and in years past, there's been a lot of Mitchell Robinson on Giannis trying that because he's a big, strong, athletic guy who's able to really hang with him. He's long, he's fast, he can kind of keep up with him. He's caused some trouble for him in the past. He's also caused a lot of trouble for Brooke Lopez in the past. So who takes that assignment?
Not Jericho Sims, I can tell you that right now. That will be I trembling think of that thought. That's a good question though. But it could be OG Anunoby. OG could be that guy that is probably going to get the Giannis assignment just because of his versatility and his
Mhm.
strength. So I would expect OG to get that matchup.
Especially with no Chris. I think it's a big part. So you
Yeah.
free up OG because I think in a normal matchup, if like everyone's healthy, I think Mitch gets Giannis and then OG gets Chris. But then when you have this sort of, half healthy rosters, I think it presents a really interesting battle. We've seen the OG on Giannis in the past, and it's kind of been a little bit of a struggle for Giannis because he's another strong guy. He's not as tall, he's not as long, but he's strong. He has a very, very solid base, quick hands, smart hands to be able to, like jar the ball loose in prime opportunities when Giannis is trying to make his move. He's caused a lot of trouble for Giannis in the past. However, he's not traditionally been a primary Giannis defender. So I'm really, really interested to see how that goes. Because I think you're absolutely right. I think that's the way that it goes.
I look, it has to be OG just because of I don't think you'd put Cat on Giannis. That just sounds like it just sounds terrible. That sounds like a terrible idea. Cat will be on Brook. You're not going to put Josh Hart. You're not going to put Bridges on Giannis. It's going to be OG by just like process of elimination, and obviously it will not be Jalen Brunson. And I think even with Middleton back, you would still go with OG with based on how this roster is built to put him on Giannis, and I would expect. Honestly, I would expect Hart on Middleton to put some physicality. I know you lose some height there, but I think that's where they would go. And then you put Bridges on Dame, trying to, disrupt Dame with some wingspan. And I think that's what we're going to see tomorrow anyway, regardless. I think we're going to see Bridges on Dame. We're going to see uh Brunson just hidden. I, I think
It's
you're gonna
gonna
have
be
Hart on.
Ajax. He's
Yeah,
gonna he's gonna guard Andre Jackson
yeah,
Jr.
yeah. He's
because
gonna go ahead, go ahead.
you don't have to really worry about a spacing threat with him. He will shoot if he absolutely has to, but not usually his thing is offense. So that's an easy way to it's an easy way to hide Brunson.
For sure, for sure. And defensively, I think that's how I feel like it's gonna shake out. And I think you're probably gonna put Andre on, Brunson to defend, right? So
Mhm.
that's how this is how it's all gonna work out. But look, between like the matchups and how things are gonna go, the one thing I do know is that it's gonna be a show between Damian Lillard and Jalen Brunson. And I feel like this is the get right game for Brunson just because, the decision making and trying to figure out to keep everybody involved, like it's tough because as you pointed out earlier in the show, whole new roster. You gotta figure out where a guy's spots are. You've had OG last year, even though he didn't play many games due to injury. He's still here though, so you kind of have an idea. Even though you play with Bridges, different player than being in college. And over the course of his career, he started to evolve throughout the league, throughout his time in the league. So you gotta figure out how you're gonna work him into the mix, and then obviously Cat. Uh, but regardless, this is going to be Jalen Brunson just going off because I don't see who I could see him just taking Andre Jackson to the rack consistently.
Yeah.
And look, if anything, if they switch Dame onto Brunson too, which they should be doing, trying to get the mismatch, that's just going to be easy money. So
Is
I
it?
expect.
Was it last year? Was it last year?
Well,
I seem to remember some close games down the stretch
I'm
where
saying easy
Dame.
money for Brunson scoring. I'm not saying easy money for the game to win. I'm just saying it's going to be easy money for Brunson to get his points because the last time he's played the Bucks, I mean, he was averaging 40, 50. The man just went off consistently. So look, I'm expecting him to do the same thing tomorrow. Uh, well, I think the Knicks win. I mean, of course, I'm going to say I believe the Knicks win, man. I cover this team. I love this team to death. So but look, Brunson, I would not be surprised if this man drops 40 tomorrow and really gets into a rhythm and then just starts opening it up for everybody else, which is what we've been waiting for. So Brunson's going to have a good one. You think Dame's going to be going off tomorrow?
It's for the belt, isn't it? It's for the belt. Dame versus Brunson, best point guard in the East. That's what's on the line this season,
That's
right?
what's on the docket tomorrow. Best point guard in the East. That's what we're going for. All right.
I mean is I mean with Maxi out for a long time, and let's be like we can let Philly have their conversations when they do. Make a conference finals. Do that. Then we can have some conversations.
For
But
sure.
I mean it's going to be interesting. I don't think Dame was very happy about not like being the best point guard in the East last year because he wasn't. That was Jalen Brunson. I think this is an opportunity. It's time for a
Mm.
showdown. I think the Bucks are going to lose this game. Like, uh, I think it's a bad team going up against a better team. Like
Mm.
that's where I'm at. Like,
Oh wow. The Bucks really got you down bad, man, throughout the first
listen,
seven,
you
eight.
you you podcast a lot about this team. You start to lower your standard. This is a team I just celebrated going 2-6.
How are they
It's still
doing now?
early.
How are they doing against the Utah Jazz right now?
They
Are
they
they?
won. They're two
Oh,
and
there you
six
go.
now.
There you go. 2-6. Look at that. So hey, man, there's some reason for you to be optimistic for tomorrow. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that matchup. Dame Brunson, always a good time. But let's wrap it up here, Rohan. Who's your X factor for tomorrow? Because I feel like there could be, I feel like for the Bucks, and you let me know if I'm wrong. I feel like there could be there's a lot more players that could be an X factor. I feel like for the Knicks, because this is, I mean, Doc likes to run a short rotation too, but I feel like there's a little bit more. You guys are outside of Middleton. I feel like a little bit more healthier than what the Knicks are right now. For the Knicks, Tibbs is in full. We're in playoff mode. All right. We're guys are playing 35 plus minutes. It's a short rotation. Cole got 8 minutes yesterday. I think Sims got 9, 10 minutes. Like it was very short. Very, very short. We're talking about 7 games into the season. Rotations are short due to injury. So for me, there's only very few players I could choose from, I believe. But I want to hear yours first since you're the guest.
First of all, my guy, my Marquette guy, Tyler Kolek. Always
Thank
gonna
you.
rep him, always gonna support him. Uh my X factor for the Bucks, it's gonna sound a little strange. It's Gary Trent Jr.
You
A
just said
guy
the guy is properly out of the starting rotation.
I
He's going to be the
know.
X factor for tomorrow.
I know because it's a very good opportunity for him to get right. There's so many opportunities, and there have been opportunities for him to really showcase his offensive prowess, show the reason why he was such a coveted and talented guy, but he just hasn't taken advantage of those opportunities. I feel like he's been overtaxed a little bit, trying to make up for the void of Chris Middleton in this offense, and it just doesn't seem like it's working out yet. The reason I think that Gary Trent Jr. has the opportunity to be an X factor is because I think Jalen Brunson is going to make sure that Andre Jackson Jr. fouls out in the first 10 minutes of this game. He's such a foul prone guy, and just Jalen Brunson is such a smart player, such a smart, crafty player, especially when it comes to schooling young guys. And I think Andre Jackson Jr. is just going to fall victim to that
Mm,
immediately. He struggles with fouls and going up. It's like it's a kid in a candy store for Jalen Brunson. So there's going to be prime opportunity for Gary Trent Jr. to really showcase what he can do and not be the guy. Like if Jalen Brunson is the guy hidden on him on defense, take advantage of that. That's why you were brought onto this team, to be a guy who's not only a shooter, who can be just a scorer overall at all levels, as a guy who can like catch and shoot, but also score off the drive, go create your own shot, go do your whatever pull up mid range fading away that he likes doing sometimes. It's fine. Like go do that. Go take advantage and prove that you belong. Because he's in a prove it year. Like he signed a 1 year minimum because he couldn't get the $20 million offer that he wanted. He had like $10 million offers on the table, but he wanted more and he couldn't get it. So this is a year for him to really showcase himself, like the guys who've just been in and out of the Bucks starting two guard spot for the last couple of years, like
mm.
Malik Beasley. He went and got a bag in Detroit. God, Malik Beasley. Grayson Allen, who's doing really well with Phoenix now. Forever my son. No one appreciated Grayson Allen like I did, but like
The
go
Suns do.
showcase. Yes, yeah, go showcase your ability to go be that guy in an opportunity that I think he's going to get. So that's why I say Gary Trent Jr.
Okay, so you're going with Gary Trent Jr. I'm going with Mikal Bridges, man. This is going to be my X factor for tomorrow's game. Like I said, I don't think it's a very long list for the Knicks, just where they are at this point, and just watching how Tibbs has shortened this rotation to start the season due to injury. I'm going with Mikal Bridges just because, look, he's the jump shot is turned around, everything's fine. Offensively, he can be there. For me, it's is he involved early enough where he can keep it going throughout the entire course of the game? Because yesterday he had it was an type of game from him. And part of it is not due to him. It's, when you're the point guard, and I'm looking at Jalen Brunson, you gotta keep guys involved, man. And Cat was fed, but Bridges gotta be fed too, man. And he's got to do more than just give you like 10 points, right? That he's brought in here to do more than that, and just to just be a guy just putting up 3 pointers. So I'm looking for Bridges. I think this is going to be a good game for him to get back on track. So for him just to show the three-level scoring that he can do. And then defensively, I think we're going to see him show out as well. Had a little bit of a tough game yesterday. Look, the wings. between Russia Shea last night, and you got Jalen Johnson, 56 points. So the wings got to be better between OG and Bridges. So I think they're gonna uh I think they're gonna show up. Is it I think it's Risha Shea.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's Risha Shea.
Shea, yeah.
Risha Shea. That's the name. So going with Bridges tomorrow.
Yeah,
Going
fair enough.
with Bridges.
I don't know who's guarding him. Torian Prince? Have fun.
Torian Prince. Man, what is
He's
this
been
Bucks team?
you know what? I'm gonna get Torian Prince has been like low key kind of solid. Like
He
he
is
hasn't been
solid. I mean, he was solid. I thought he was decent on the Lakers. I'm just like, what is this Bucks team from like all the change and just, man, I look at this roster. I was looking at the depth chart today. I'm like, who? What's going on here? I'm like, sheesh. That's just
listen,
that's just what it
it'll
is to
look
me at this point.
it'll look a lot better when he's coming off the bench. I'll tell you that much. When like
Oh
he can
man.
score his 5 points a game off the bench.
Well, appreciate you coming through, Rohan. So I know you said during the show you don't believe the Bucks will win tomorrow. I believe the Knicks are going to win tomorrow. What are your feelings for tomorrow's matchup?
I think the Knicks are going to win. I think this is a
Mm,
tough game, a road back to back for the Bucks. So they're at a rest and travel disadvantage. Uh, and again, it's a team that's been struggling. Do I think that they have the opportunity to go on a run? Yeah, absolutely. I still think this is a team that's going to be good. It's just going to take them some time.
mm.
Like it's still so early in the season, and like I said, I'm more confident now. I was more confident about the 1-6 Bucks than I was the 1-4 Bucks, and I still stand by that. I still believe in it. I just think that the Knicks are a very good, solid team that has like more of a cohesive identity and has stronger pieces around to be able to outperform the Bucks. Do I think that Giannis is going to get his? Absolutely. Do I think Dame's going to have an opportunity to get his? Absolutely. Do I think the team as a unit can play at a high level? Sure. Is that going to be enough? Maybe not. This is a good Knicks team. It's a high level of competition. Like you can have all the talent in the world, you still need to go out there and prove it, and everyone needs to operate at a high level to be able to beat these good teams, these good talented teams. And the Bucks haven't proven to me that they can do that yet. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Knicks in this one.
All right, there we go. Rohan going with the Knicks. He's look. He comes on the show. You're a gracious guest, man. I appreciate you come through. You're like, you know what, the Knicks are going to win tomorrow. Some people will just, say, hey, it's going to be my team. Be aggressive all about it. But hey, I appreciate, your hospitality while coming into our home. Rohan, appreciate you for coming through. Please let the listeners know where they can find you if you got any work up and coming. We should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, you can catch us at the Eurostep podcast, GYRO. You can find us at our links are at gspn.info. You can find all Wisconsin sports pods. We got Bucks, we got Brewers, we got Packers, we got all that fun stuff. But yeah, me and Ty, we talk Bucks basketball every week. It's a sweet life, man. That's all I can say.
Oh man! So if you all want to catch some Bucks updates, insight, make sure to go check out the Euro Stuff podcast. They are also part of the family at the Blue Wire, part of the Blue Wire podcast network, just like KFTV. So make sure to go support them. Shout out to Rohan for coming through yet again. And look, salute to Knicks Nation for coming through and checking out another Game of the Week preview. I appreciate all of you coming through. We, the KFTV as a whole, appreciate you for supporting the channel as always. Salute to all the channel members, man. The franchise channel members. We got Steven Gomez in here. We got John Talento in here. Who else we got in here? Who else? We got PMCG. Shout out to you as well. Who else we got in this chat? Shout out to my guy G5 Wheeze. What up? What's going on? We got Mill in the chat as well. Shout out to you. We got Wise Guy. We got Epicness 54. Shout out to all you guys, man. Shout out to Space Jam Rose as well. Shout out to Trevor. Shout out to all you guys for coming through tonight. Catch another Game of the Week preview, and you all know what to do. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash when you sign up for the first time using that promo code, and you get a free pick. Also, guys, guess what? Even though the Knicks are home tomorrow, there is a watch party. That's right, there is a watch party. Clinton Hall, starting at 5:30. That's when the doors open. So if you want to go get your pregame swag on, if you're heading over to the Garden, Go hang out with the KFTV family, man. Go hang out with the orange and blue family. Go to Quinton Hall. CP's going to be there. The Knicks chick's going to be there. Look, man, we just want to watch the Knicks win. Why not hang out with a bunch of Knicks fans, catching them win tomorrow against the Milwaukee Bucks at Clinton Hall or before you go to Madison Square Garden. Do whatever fits your fancy, all right? But appreciate you all for tuning in. If you can't catch the show live, you already know what to do. Make sure to download the show on any audio streaming platform, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, any place, man. We are located everywhere, all right? Appreciate you all once again for tuning in for another Game of the Week preview. We out.